let's go here. I appreciate you joining us, Trey. I'm Brian Moss, publisher of Tiger Sports Report. Sure you know Leroy Watson, the local basketball guru in Memphis. Thanks for joining us.
What's up, man?
What up, Leroy? What up? The legend right here, Brian.
How you like it down in Florida?
Man, I'm blessed. I'm fortunate. I ain't got no complaints at all. I enjoy it. I enjoy where I am. So I've been really, really fortunate.
Good.
I want to take you back to your high school playing days. You're at Mitchell, I believe. Talk about, you playing basketball in Memphis, and just the pressure that comes with it and the enjoyment that comes with it.
Man, I was fortunate. I grew up in Walker Homes. So for me to play in the community where I grew up was pretty much, that's kind of gone out the window nowadays. Kids are pretty much going wherever. I mean, look at kids are coming to IMG, kids are going across the country, kids are all over. So for me, it was a sense of pride, sense of urgency that I played with at Mitchell. I had to play for a legendary coach and Coach Jerry Johnson, who he's probably one of the main reasons that I got into coaching. So, rest in peace to Coach Johnson. But man, I enjoyed it. I love Memphis. I feel like we're hotbed for talent, so I'm very fortunate for that.
Now, were you looking? When you're going through the recruiting process, now what schools were recruiting you, or did you kind of like push them off because you wanted to go to Memphis?
So what happened, man? I never forget. I was actually looking at Liberty. In Virginia, I was looking at Mississippi Valley State, which is in Itabena. I was getting ready to make a decision probably within the next 24 to 48 hours about where I wanted to go to school, and I came down to those two schools. And Coach Pastner walked in the gym when we played East High School against Nick King, and they were freshmen. He came in the gym. I never forget it. And he watched the whole game. It was just, I had no idea he was coming. I mean, we actually had a decent relationship, obviously, dating back to the Coach Calipari days. So when he walked in the gym, my teammates were pretty much shocked. I was really tight with Robert Sally at the time. I was tight with Donnell Matt. I was tight with the team, so they came. And obviously, I had probably one of the better games of my career, even though we lost. Coach Pastner asked me, was I still considering, the University of Memphis at the time. I told him, as far as I got scholarships here, got whatever situation he offered me, he said that, look, he couldn't give me a scholarship right then and there. But if it was something that I was willing to consider and work for it, then that he'll put off on the table. At that time, I really didn't know what I wanted to do. I talked to my parents about it. I talked to my family about it. My heart was just at Memphis. So I was forced to call the two schools that I was going to commit to within like the next 2 days and tell them that I was going to stay home. After I met with Coach Pastner, he basically said, look, I can't, we can walk on right now, and then you have opportunity to earn a scholarship in the years to come. And for me, it took like 6 months, and I was on scholarship the rest of the way. So it was probably the best decision I ever made. So
you have any questions about his high school days?
Well, yeah. A lot of people, Brian, don't understand why everybody calls him Trey, but his given name is Leonard Draper III. Mm-hmm. And Trey, given who your father was, Leonard Draper Jr., and his father, Leonard Draper Sr., it was almost a done deal that some kind of way you're going to end up in Memphis one way or another, don't you think? Particularly given how deep their time was.
Yeah, well, see, when Coach Calipari was there, that was pretty much the original plan. Yeah. To go to University of Memphis, whatever, that was the plan. When Coach Cal left in the middle of that season, right before our senior year, I had a great relationship with Coach Cal, and it was just a situation where I didn't know. I didn't know because, you're dealing with a new coach. Coach Pastner didn't know me. He didn't know, he had no idea about the history, that my grandfather, and, he never knew that was my dream. He was actually coming to watch Nick King at the
Right.
time. He was coming to watch Nick King. They were really
He was
good,
always
and
talking about that.
yeah, that was how the conversation started. So when he watched Nick King, obviously, you know, I was tight with, like I said, Robert Saleh. I knew a bunch of those guys on the former team, Willie Kemp. They came and they supported me. And so we talked. And Coach Pastner, you know, from that day, just kind of moving forward, he was like, yo, I did my research. You know, I know that you know, the University of Memphis is obviously a dream of yours. And at that time, I was blown away. I had no idea what I wanted to do because when you're talking about, obviously may have to pay some money. You talk about opportunity to go and pretty much play, you know, my whole career where I could possibly, at one school was offering me to start as a freshman. You know, so you talk about giving up all of that for what I did at the University of Memphis. And like I said, I think I made the right decision.
And talk a little bit about your family tree. A lot of people don't really realize how big the University of Memphis is to the Draper household, how much the Draper household has meant to the University of Memphis. So tell us a little bit about your father and grandfather's relationships to the university and to the city.
Man, my granddad goes all the way back to the Mo Alba days, to the Dana Kirk days, to the Larry Finch days. I mean, it's just he go all the way back, dating back to probably over 6 decades. You know what I mean? Since he was roughly in his 30s. He's 80 now. You know, so I'm fortunate enough that he's still around and healthy and moving at 80 years old. So our relationship goes all the way back to them, to the point where, you know, he was best friends with Larry Finch. You know, he was the one people on that recruited Larry Finch to the University of Memphis. That was, like I said, because of his relationship, and from there it pretty much just laid his foundation. Larry Finch, you know, obviously became the head coach, and from there, him and my granddad took recruiting trips everywhere. I mean, they went from Memphis to West Memphis to Texas to so man, it's been an interesting situation. Obviously, for me growing up around it, I know all about the history. I'm one of the very few guys I feel like that can really speak to different generations about, you know, Tiger basketball from the 60s to the 70s to the 80s to the 90s to the 2000s to obviously 2010s, 2020s because of I grew up in it. You know, I grew up in it and I grew up around it, so I pretty much know. I know a lot. I'm very fortunate, obviously, to represent my city. So, you know, I definitely don't take it for granted.
You know, a lot of guys your age and your position would be really happy to name drop and, you know, hey, I know so and so and live off the family name. You've never done that. I mean, I've never heard you talk about anything like this because
That was one of the reasons. That was one of the reasons why, you know, I was actually offered. A lot of people don't know, but I was actually offered. Miss Vicky Finch offered me to wear 21 during my days at the
really.
University of Memphis, and I didn't do it.
Ah,
I didn't want to. That was she offered it to me. They offered to bring it out of retirement, and it's just something that I didn't want to do. Like I said, because I knew the history that came behind that, you know, and that was just, I wanted to be, I've always been the type, I work for everything I get. You know, that was something that my mom and dad and my family instilled in me at an early age. You know, I knew my granddad's situation with him being around the University of Memphis and being how invested he was into the program, and everybody known him as Leonard Draper. So the reason I wanted to go with Trey was to pretty much build my own name, and build my own reputation. And you know, obviously I have the last name, but it's not the same as having, you know, the full government, which I actually do have. I'm literally named after my dad and my granddad.
so Brian, we just broke some news to the entire Tiger Nation, man. I never knew that Vicky Finch offered to allow you to bring that number out of retirement for your 4 years.
Yeah, she did. That's like aunt, man. I just never wanted to. That was something that it just didn't want. That was just nah.
There would be a lot of pressure.
It's too much. It's too much pride. It's too much pride in it.
Yeah, absolutely. So Brian, we've got a piece of living, breathing Memphis basketball royalty right here. doing this video chat with us. I just want to make sure the fans understand, this isn't just some young whippersnapper off the street. There's a lot of history in the Draper family with University of Memphis.
Oh, that's beautiful.
I've been fortunate. I've been very, very fortunate. Like I said, to just the whole way around. I don't take it for granted at all.
Now you get to Memphis. Talk about your time at Memphis. What are some of the greatest memories that you have playing for the Tigers?
Man, I can start before then. Just because I was first on it to end up. Joe Jackson was probably the first biggest commitment. Coach Pastner actually even told us, like, yo, I'm not, as far as, like, we need to get that done, Tariq. So once Joe committed, then it was pretty much myself, Joe, Tariq, and Chris Crawford sat in a room and we was all decided to go to the University of Memphis. That had a lot to do with my decision, just because I knew those guys. We've been knowing these. I played with Chris since I was 8 years old. I've been knowing Tariq since the 9th grade. I've been knowing Joe since the 6th grade. So that kind of influenced my decision. At that time, we didn't want to be the team that let the drop happen. You know what I mean? Because coming from Coach Calipari, you got Elite Eight, Final Four. Then he left. So you had a situation, and that was really, to us, we took that personal. Obviously, we didn't make it to the Sweet 16 or didn't go further, but we took that personal. We were fortunate enough to have the #1 recruiting class, and with Will Barton, you had Jelon Kendrick in there. Then you come back with Antonio Barton, Hippolyte, Saspak, and then we ended up getting Charles Camus, which was a sophomore transfer. So it was eligible right away. So we had the #1 recruiting class in the country, which for us was something that I talk about daily, because now that when you look back on it 10 years ago in 2010, it's almost unheard of. You don't realize how hard it is to be a part of something so special. So that was probably one of the most memorable moments. Obviously, doing a lot and being a part of a #1 recruiting class in the country. Then from there, the first Memphis Madness was probably ridiculous. I was speechless. I was speechless on that. I had nothing. Obviously, the winning the three conference championships back to back was probably at the top. Because I realized how hard it is to win, especially transition to the coaching side. Winning is pretty much hard. It's unheard of. 16-0 in the regular season was probably was definitely special. Winning 100, I think we won 104 games. I think we were second or maybe third in the, like I said, over a 4-year career. Just winning 100 games, I realized how hard that is to do over a 4-year span. And then just being one of the final 3 remaining. Obviously, Will Barton declared for the NBA. Tariq transferred to Kansas. Antonio ended up going to Tennessee. Hip actually stopped playing because he had some injuries. So the last 3 was myself. Well, part of that original class was myself, Joe, and Chris. So that was something that we definitely look back on and realize, like, we went through a lot of stuff, but we didn't leave. We stayed true to our commitment from Jump Street, and from there, it just, like I said, we built a lot of life-lasting memories.
You mentioned something that I was a part of that was just absolutely breathtaking, and that was that first Memphis Madness. And the program was perfect. They had all the Tiger legends in the building.
Oh, it was ridiculous.
And it was almost like, and I don't know if Josh did this, and maybe you could answer the question. It seemed like every person they introduced, they did it in order where they knew you're going to get a bigger pop and a bigger pop and a bigger pop. And the last name called. And, because people, when it became clear who it was like, wait a minute, is he really coming? Is that Keith? Is that Keith? And they said the name Keith Lee. I think my ears are still ringing at the ovation for Keith Lee. Man, that nearly brought tears to my eyes when Keith Lee walked out and they showed that love to him at that Memphis Madness. That may be the highlight of my entire life, that moment in time.
you might not, a lot of people may know, they may not know this, but that whole Memphis Madness was dedicated to Adonis Thomas.
Yes, it was. That's right. You're right.
Staying home. The theme of that was staying home. I was his host on his official visit. And that was our biggest thing, was to always keep him around former players that are actually from Memphis. So Keith Lee, Penny Hardaway, Andre Turner. You talk about the whole guys that Elliot Perry that were from Memphis. So that was one of the biggest things that was definitely dedicated toward him. So once he decided to obviously commit, that kind of took everything and just put it all into perspective. So yeah, definitely having Keith Lee back was definitely a different experience.
And folks forget, Keith and the university weren't always on the best of terms. There was a long period of time where it was icy cold relationship between Keith and the U of Memphis. And, people may not want to give him credit because they're still upset with him. But John Calipari went a long way to unthawing that relationship. And he did enough to where Josh was able to bring him in for that event. Now, I still think there's a lot more they could have and should have done and should still be doing. That's another story.
Right.
Billy and Pastner did a lot to help restore that relationship.
Oh, definitely. No, that's, like I said, whatever happened, that, but definitely just having him, he's the all-time leading scorer, if I'm not mistaken, in the history. So, yeah, to have him on campus and, like I said, to go to Final Four, to have him on campus was definitely a good experience. It's something that you remember 10 years later.
I'll never forget it. That was just the crowning accomplishment. That was the high point to me of the entire Pastner era. And
he did something nobody else could get done, huh?
Right. That's the only time Keith Lee has been in public since he left University of Memphis, then Memphis State. That's the only time he's made a public appearance at any sort of University of Memphis function.
Absolutely, 100%.
And when you look at the Memphis program over the decades, which decade is the best in your opinion?
In my opinion, it was the 90s was really good, but the 2000s for me obviously was my favorite. So I guess you had to say the 2000s with DeJuan Wagner, the Calipari era. Obviously people will debate with me, and that'd be a question I had to kind of ask my granddad and let him debate that one. But for me, I'd probably say what I can remember vividly, and that'd be the 2000s. With who was that? DeJuan Wagner and the rest of the guys.
For sustained success, that's probably the best period we had, because the 70s, you went to the championship in 72, 73, and then Clean Gene had the one good year after that. Then you had a steep drop off.
Mm-hmm.
80s began, the program was in the toilet.
Then Andre Turner and them kind of resurrected it, huh?
And Kirk brings it all back, and then it goes back in the toilet because you go on probation and recruiting is dead. So, and then the 90s started off terribly, and then Calipari by the end of the decade brought it on strong. But the 2000s, that, from 2000 to 2009, 2010, however you want to do that.
Yeah, definitely. That was definitely a load. That was a load. I think that was probably the most relevant, one of the most relevant times in University of Memphis history or Memphis State history. So yeah, that's definitely one that I'll definitely say. Probably the 2000s. I'll get back to you when I ask more people and see what they say.
That's a good question, Brian. I like that one.
Oh, no problem at all. Now,
which way would you lean, Brian?
Oh, who would I pick?
Yeah, which decade?
I have to agree because it's a success. I would have to say the 2000s. Personal favorite, I would probably say 90s, but best.
Really?
Yeah, to me, yeah. Just I don't know. I guess the way that the game has changed. I mean, we talked just when Farrakhan Hall was here. to me, the 90s was just a more physical game, and that's what I like. So I gravitate more towards the 90s game than now.
But then, in the 80s, it was a really physical period. Yeah. And you had two premium rivalries, Houston, Hakeem Olajuwon, and Georgetown, Patrick Ewing, versus, Keith Lee and his supporting cast. So I really thought you were going to pick the 80s.
It's close. It's close.
So, Trey, who do you think Granddad would pick? What decade do you think he would pick?
Ooh. If I had to guess, I'm going to say he would pick maybe the 80s.
Okay, I can see that.
I'm going to say, and I'll get back with you. I'm going to see. I'm going to guess he'll say the 80s. So we're going 60s, 70s, 78, 70s, 80s, 90s. Yeah, he'll say the 80s. I'm going to say he'll say the 80s.
I'm going to cheat and say Granddad would say 70s and Dad would say 80s. I can cover
Dad
both
right here. Dad right here. I can ask him.
Oh.
Yay. Hey, yeah.
What decade?
Latest decade of University of Memphis / Memphis State basketball.
So he gonna say the 70s, like you said.
Oh, I thought Dad would pick 80s.
Dad said the 80s. Dad said the 80s. He said Granddad would say that. He said Granddad would say the 70s.
Okay, all right, there we go. Because Granddad and his personal relationship with Finch, it's gonna be hard for him to pick any decade but the 70s. Okay. So between your granddad, your dad, and Brian, and you and me, we got everything covered: 70s, 80s, 90s, and 2000s.
In 2000, yeah, I got the 2000s. I got the 2000s.
I'm with you on that, Trey. I got to say.
Now, you were obviously growing up a Memphis fan, but when you became a player at Memphis, what did you learn about the Memphis fan base that you may not have known as just when you were a fan?
I knew they were. I knew that the fans were invested, but I had no idea they were invested the way they were. Just the love and support that they showed the university, especially for myself, a guy that didn't really play a ton and still had relationships, and they still reach out. They still call. They probably call even more now or text or write on Twitter or Instagram and Snap. Like, it's the fan base is deluding. I obviously now I've been able to see a lot of other fan bases up close and personal. I would definitely put the University of Memphis in literally the top 10. They, like I said, the sellouts. We support wonders, obviously, but being able for myself, being with our 4-year run to have 18,000 people in the area it was ridiculous.
What do you think about the decision to hire Penny Hardaway as head coach? It's the same thing we asked Pharaoh the other day.
The best decision they could have made. I was one of the ones that was very outspoken on Twitter and social media and broadcasting for him to get the job. You needed one of your own for him to come back and obviously not just resurrect it, but keep it relevant. We're always on the national scene. We're on the national platform, and people talk about Penny was on TV last night. So for them to talk about him and bring him up, you had to bring up Penny Hardaway. You have to bring up the University of Memphis.
How much is he talked about still down in Florida from his days in Orlando?
He always talks about it. Every time when he comes down and visit, he always say he stays in Orlando because we're like an hour and 30 minutes from Orlando to Bradenton. So he usually, when he comes down, and his time in Miami too, but he always talks about the Orlando time, and he says when he comes down to Bradenton, he just stay over in Orlando.
Wow. So between his connections to Orlando and Miami, and of course his being one of the best NBA stars ever. When you look at what he did when he was healthy, he was as big a star as ever came into the league. So does that help you be more relevant with some of the student athletes down in Florida now that you're one of the coaches at IMG?
Definitely. I mean, just by him being, he's probably the face of Memphis on the national scene when it comes to basketball. Obviously the shoes have a lot to do with it now with the younger generation, but a lot of, my generation and probably a little bit older than me are very familiar with this basketball playing days. So yeah, when you talk about just being from Memphis, probably one of the first, if not the first name behind your guy is Penny Hardaway.
How do you think this G League stuff is going to affect college basketball going further? I mean, do you like it? Do you dislike it? What are your thoughts on that?
It's a game changer. It's definitely a game changer. I think they should have the opportunity to declare for the draft if they want it. I mean, I think the G League is different. I'm not a huge fan of it, because you putting them in the fire. It's like going to JUCO, and they're gonna be playing these G League teams and playing guys that will do anything to get a shot in the NBA. So you talk about putting 18-year-olds, especially 18-year-olds that's making 6 times more than the G League salary. So they're gonna take it personal. But obviously, I'm a fan of them having the opportunity to go get paid for what they love to do. I don't think that's, they should definitely have that choice. But I think it opens the NCAA eyes to make some changes as well, so that they can try to keep some of these top 5, top 10 recruits, into coming to college basketball.
Greg Brown and Jalen Green will kind of be the faces of the G League experiment, if we can call it. I know those are 2 guys that you're very familiar with.
Greg going to Texas, right?
Yeah, Greg's going to Texas.
I'm telling you, I think he's going to change his mind. I'm just saying.
Think so?
I really do. But so we'll take Greg out of it since it hadn't been announced he's going to do that yet. And I don't have an inside information. I just really honestly feel that's what he's going to end up doing. But we'll just take Jalen. That's cool. The face of the new G League experiment. How do you think that's going to turn out for Jalen Green?
I think Jalen Green is one of the few that'll be successful, because Jalen Green is gonna be Jalen Green wherever he plays. He would have probably been the top 2 pick this year. He'd probably be a top 2 pick if he went to college. Now everybody isn't Jalen Green. Jalen Green will have an opportunity to probably steal shoes. So I think he's one of the few that I think he's in another planet. But you got other guys that are pretty much not as athletic or not as good as Jalen Green. So I think they're the one that may be taking the risk. But when you talk about so we'll see. But I think Jalen Green, I think Jalen Green will be fine. I think he'll be the number 1 pick, number 2 pick, no matter what decision he decided to do.
And do you think because of the G League experiment, that's one of the reasons? I know there are probably other stated reasons, but one of the big reasons why the NCAA has said, okay, look, guys, you come here, you can make money off your name. I've got to think that's got to be a big part of the decision-making process of the NCAA.
Oh, that's definitely if not the main reason, because I think they were forced to move quick on it. I've never seen them pass the law as fast as they did. So before they could lose anybody else to the G League, they had to make some changes. So I think allowing them to make money off their likeness is definitely a good first step.
Now, at what point did you realize or want to become a coach? Was it when you were playing, or did that happen after your playing days?
It really happened. Coach Johnson, like I said, we spoke about earlier, he mentioned it earlier. It wasn't until maybe during my playing days in Memphis when it really like registered to me. And I think Coach Stoudemire had a lot to do with that. Coach Stoudemire was, like I said, me being around him, he was there my sophomore and junior year. So me being around him and obviously being partnered with him on scout team a lot. You know, we kind of, and then from there, I just kind of took it and ran with it.
And
because I kind of wanted to go be an agent. That was like one of the things I really wanted to do.
so you started getting your foot in the door as a coach at your alma mater.
Yeah, had no idea to work out like that.
And so you got to coach with Faraji Phillips, who's now at Vanderbilt.
No, Andre Faraji was gone.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Faraji was gone. That's right.
Faraji was gone.
But you were on the bench with Andre, and y'all. I don't know why everybody forgets y'all won the third championship.
Yeah, we won the third one.
Faraji, all three of them.
Nah, we won it. So when I left University of Memphis, I went to Chattanooga first with Will Wade.
Right.
So when I left Will Wade, I ended up back at Mitchell with Andre. Andre had just took the job. June. He took it in June 6th. We were talking about it the other day. June 6th was actually the date that he took the job because he was looking at the article in the office. So June 6th was the day that he accepted it, and he hired me June 6th. That was the day that so from there we just took off, and yeah, we won the third one though.
And it's just amazing, Trey, how many people forget that. You know, yeah, Faraji won back-to-back, and, you know, can't take that away from him, but Andre Turner was the head
first
coach.
Year.
For the
whole
third
new team
in his first year.
Yeah, with a whole new team. Yeah, he had to get a whole new team. People don't give Andre a lot of credit. But Andre, to win your state championship your first year as a coach at your alma mater with a brand new starting 5 and 6 man he deserves a ton of credit for that. They can't forget that. And the gym is named after him.
And, you know, shout out to you as one of his assistants, Lonnie McGee, Curtis Green.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all put together one
Michael Clear.
And Michael Clear. Yeah, that was an outstanding coaching staff. And without the coaching staff, you guys don't win that championship. You just don't. I mean, the talent drop-off was – I mean, there was a talent drop-off.
Yeah, it was. We lost, like I said, we lost Jeremiah Martin. Naba, Kyler, Khalil Spencer left. Yeah, it was a load. I mean, Mike Fafana transferred. Tevin Ollison was the only one that returned on that team. And Tevin didn't play. He didn't play his junior year because of the guys that were in front of him.
Correct.
So Tevin led that team. Tevin went on. He was player of the year in his conference this year. Tevin had a great career.
No question. So you're at Mitchell, you're at your alma mater, things are going great. You know, you're coaching under a legend, Andre Turner. So the move to IMG, what motivated you to uproot yourself and go down to Florida to continue your coaching career?
Well, honestly, Andre kind of pushed me out the door because I was debating if I wanted to go, if I wanted to stay, honestly. But I had a job interview with another school in Memphis. Like that after we completed our third year, I had a job interview at a high school in Memphis where I ended up getting a job, but they ended up bringing the coach back. It was just a lot of drama that went on. And you know, Andre actually was an advocate for me in getting that one and getting that job. He felt like it was time for me to kind of branch off and kind of, you know, because he felt like I could actually make a career out of it and not just, you know, get confined and stuck in here in Memphis. So when I didn't get that one, 2 weeks later, IMG called. And I remember going to him and sitting in his office and talking to him about it. And he literally responded, I was like, what you think I should do? He's like, your bag's packed? I was like, that's literally what he said. I was like, Andre, he's a big jokester. He's like, your bag's packed? I was like, nah. He's like, you better hurry up. So he wasn't letting me say no regardless. You know, and the next thing, then one thing led to another. I spoke to the team like 2 or 3 days later, and one thing led to another.
Well, it turned out to be a great move. I mean, you're becoming a real ring collector, man. You won a ring in your first year at IMG. Man, that has got to be an otherworldly kind of feeling. Tell us about that.
Yeah, being a state, like I said, I was actually talking to my dad about it. Being a state, I think Mitchell was probably the one at the top of the list for me though. Out of all of the rings, I have 7 of them, 7 rings. So being at the top, I think the Mitchell one was probably be first, just because no one expected it. You know, with all the history behind it. You know, our whole coaching staff being there, being from Mitchell, and nobody expecting us, wasn't in no preseason rankings, and to go win a state championship was probably at the top. But obviously, win the national championship, is definitely, if not second, right at 1A. Winning a national championship, like I said, winning on ESPN at the highest stage, how we did it, being down 16 points in the fourth, you know, winning on a dunk, it was, you know, that's something that you remember, you know, forever. So definitely, it's definitely at the top of the list as well.
And one of your key players for IMG, Memphis and Matt Morelle, we're talking about another ring collector. When you look at Matt Morelle, he won on the summer circuit. He won the national championship at IMG. What is Matt Morelle like as a competitor and off the court?
Fearless. Matt is fearless. He, like I said, he's one of the stand-up kids. He's never late. He has a 4.0, 25 on ACT. So Matt is just, he's one of the rare ones. He's one of the rare breeds. Like I said, he's always on time. He's in the gym getting extra work. He always responding to calls and text messages. So he just, as far as just a basketball player, he's fearless. He's a competitor. So I'm expecting him to go down to Ole Miss and probably start right away, if not lead them in scoring, be all freshman SEC. So whatever he does at Ole Miss won't be shocking.
I got to see Ole Miss play Mississippi State at home. And when I look at their roster and what they've got and who they're graduating, I'm in total agreement with you. Matt Morelle will start from day one at Ole Miss. I'm not going to say it's going to be easy. That's the SEC. But he'll definitely start. I definitely think all SEC.
Matt has the work ethic
yeah.
to go in, you know, because when he got to us, he really, you know, people question his ball handling, people question his shot making ability, and Matt was second on our team in scoring. He shot 39% from 3. He played a lot of point guard when Jake Springer got hurt. So Matt, his game developed. So I'm not, it won't shock me at all when he does at Ole Miss.
What have you learned most about yourself being a coach?
Putting others first. You know, putting others first, putting their well-being first. I think that was one of the biggest things I learned. Just making sure, putting the success of the team first. You know, obviously a lot of people can't do that, especially. But when you're a coach, you know, it's not really about you. It's about your team, and you know, making sure that everything is kind of like being damage control. Make sure the ship just keep floating.
Yep. And Memphis obviously has the barbecue. In Florida, what do they have? Where do you go to eat?
I think seafood. Seafood would be Louisiana's big for seafood, but Florida's big for seafood as well. They really known for seafood. They got a lot of healthy foods in Florida as well, though. You don't really find the fast foods, the Popeyes and the Captain D. They don't really have a lot of that. You'll obviously come up on it, but it's not a ton of them. They have their own franchise or chain restaurant food chains in Florida.
Now, with this COVID-19, how is your team? How do you guys preparing for it? How do you keep up with the kids? You know, what are you guys doing during this time?
So yeah, we have to recruit a whole new team. We're losing 7 guys. We're only bringing 4 back. So we got to pretty much recruit a whole new team. We had one kid announced the other day that he was coming. He went public with it. So from there, pretty much just staying on the phone, staying in contact. Social media is really, really big. I think the social media branding is probably it's getting out of control. But right now, it's probably the best thing to happen because you're able to stay in contact with certain players, everywhere. They know you, they see you. I think the Zoom calls have kind of taken over. So for us, like I said, our guys do a lot of Zoom workouts. They check in once a week on the Zoom. We obviously in the group text, so we always texting back and forth. But yeah, the Zoom calls have definitely shot up to the top of the list. Not even FaceTime, Zoom. Everything is Zoom now.
Yeah. Now, have you had a chance to check out, any of the shows on Netflix or anything like that, especially when everyone's talking about Tiger King?
I haven't seen Tiger King. Blacklist is good. Money Heist is really good. I think The Last Dance is kind of taking over the last few Sundays. But definitely those right there are my top two, Blacklist and Money Heist.
So I got Leroy.
You got any Memphis kids on your radar? You gonna try to slide somebody else down to IMG with you?
Nah, I'm staying away from Memphis right now.
Really?
Yeah, I'm staying out of Memphis.
Man, with 2021, you've got Jonathan Lawson.
Yeah, they loaded. 2021 is loaded. You got at least some talent here in the city.
Mason Miller, rather.
Mason, yeah. Kennedy is good.
Kennedy Chandler.
Yeah, they're low. They're really good.
Yeah, David Dixon.
But nah, we'll see what happens though. Honestly, nobody they've just obviously identified because you can't really see them right now. But I mean, I'm very familiar with all of them. But we'll see what happens.
That sounds like coach speak to me.
Nah, I'm telling you the truth.
Brian, he's definitely a coach now, man. He's talking like a coach.
Well, let's see if we get a coach speak. This the one last question I asked Farrakhan, same thing. Who would you put on your Memphis Mount Rushmore?
On my Mount Rushmore, Memphis. It's 4, right? What is it? 4?
Yep.
I don't get an extra one.
Players, coaches, a combo. Just your four best.
I don't get an extra one.
No, got to be 4.
4.
Larry Finch. Penny Hardaway. Andre Turner.
Okay.
Joe Jackson.
Oh, interesting.
I'm a little biased with the Joe answer.
Okay.
Just because I don't think he get enough credit. I've been seeing a lot of people disrespect him on social media lately.
And we talked about that with Farrakhan as well.
I'm tired of it.
Why they hating on Joe all of a sudden, man?
Why they hating on Joe? So my answer might be a little biased, but Joe going on the Mount Rushmore.
Nice.
And, we talked about that with Farrakhan extensively. And I have no arguments with anyone putting Joe Jackson on their Memphis Mount Rushmore. I mean, when you look at what he did.
His career he won 104 games. He scored over he's top 5 and top 7 in scoring, top 3 in assists, top 2 in steals. He back-to-back Conference USA Player of the Year. He was Conference Player of the Year in the First American. So I mean, he got it. Joe had a career. Obviously, he just didn't advance in the tournament, but his career is definitely one I think is overlooked. So just because people decide to hate on him and be jealous of him, I'm gonna put him on as my best friend. I'm gonna put him on my Mount Rushmore.
And you didn't even mention his high school career. He had one of the top 5 greatest high school careers in the city of Memphis.
He's in my 27 years, I've never seen a better high school career.
Mm-hmm.
That I've watched you covered it,
Yeah, I mean, he was special. Yeah. And I just don't, we're rehashing some of what we said to Pharaoh, but I don't understand why all of a sudden people can decide they can go back and change history and just make him an okay player. No, this kid was not an okay player. Kentucky and Kansas were in a dogfight with Memphis to sign Joe Jackson. Kentucky and Kansas.
I see it all on social media. I don't respond, but I've seen it all on my Facebook and Instagram. I'm speechless at some of the things I'm reading that, like, Joe had he wasn't just okay. He was, he had a hell of a career.
And this is people who are from and still in Memphis who are bashing him the hardest. We're not talking about people from outside the city. People in the city all of a sudden coming out the woodwork saying, yeah, he was okay. What?
I think they wanted to be him. That's just what it is. I think, you can be, at that size, that's an average size. So for him to do what he did at that size, people probably just jealous. They knew they couldn't be Penny. They knew they couldn't be 6'9". They couldn't be Keith Lee. They couldn't be 6'6". So they wanted, they hating on the guy that's 6 feet.
Okay, so you went with Andre Turner, Larry Finch, Joe Jackson, and Penny Hardaway.
Yep.
Hey, that's a strong Rushmore, Brian. I can't fight with him about that. Mine would be a little different, just a little different, but I can't fight with you on that one, Trey.
I mean, if I had to take Joe off, I would probably go Keith Lee or CDR. But that's about it. I can't go no deeper. That's about it right there.
Okay.
Fair.
Not mad at you. Not mad at you at all. Okay, so what's next for you as a coach? I mean, I know you don't want to be at IMG forever. Have you given thought to what the next step in Trey Draper's coaching career might be?
I've thought about it. I haven't really, I try to keep a even mind about it. I've taken some phone calls from a few people. Last year, it wasn't the right fit. I didn't feel it in my heart. Like, I knew that Mitchell was the right situation. I knew that IMG. I'm a firm believer in God. I pray about it every day. I knew that IMG was a no-brainer, so to speak, even though I wanted to stay where I was. But I just knew, and I was fortunate to have people around me that saw what I couldn't see at the time. For me personally, though, it would have to be something really good, maybe a Division I school, but it had to be the right one. I'm just, can't be just anything. So we'll see.
So you would like to move up to the college ranks?
Yes.
Okay.
Not knocking out the NBA, but college is more. I'm more interested in college than I am the NBA.
And to me, your personality fits college more than NBA, because NBA is a business. And
college.
I mean, yeah, college
is business too, though.
It is, but it's more about learning and relationships than, in the NBA, you can have 12 guys. They may not spend any time together once they leave the arena.
That's fact.
They may be going 12 different directions. And the coach hadn't got anything to say about that. Coach is just a babysitter. College level, oh no, we're all in this thing together. Coaches, grad assistants, players.
Spend a lot of time together.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Spend a lot of time together. It's kind of like where we are at IMG. Just spend a lot of time together. You probably around each other more than you are with your family. So yeah, you definitely head on with that one.
Yeah. So to me, knowing, I haven't been around you for some years, college seems to fit you better than the NBA. I mean, I think you're going to be a success wherever you go, whatever you're doing as a coach. I think, it's just in you to do that. But I think you would enjoy college infinitely more than pro.
Appreciate that. We'll see. I mean, like I said, we're going to see we're going to shake the dice and roll and see where it lands.
But I know for the time being, you're in a really, really good spot. IMG has really solidified themselves in the basketball world with that national championship. Do you guys, as the coaches, talk about how that really puts a stamp on IMG and really makes you legit? It puts you in the same conversation with a Montverde or an Oak Hill or somebody like that?
Yeah, that was one of the things, like I say, the basketball program the national basketball program only been around 4 years. This is the first year was with Trayvon Duval. The second year obviously was with Noah. The third year was myself. So it's been around 5 years now, going on 5 years. So yeah, we definitely talk about it. One thing that Coach talked about it when he interviewed me and that, I was saying was he used to be a history teacher. He used to talk about, every empire is fallen. You know, he wanted to take down, you know, every empire. So for us, during that year that we won the national championship, we knew that, you know, we was going to have to go through. We lost the game, but we felt like we took down, we beat Montverde, we beat Oak Hill that year, we beat La Lumiere. So we beat the perennial powerhouses, so to speak, that kind of put us in the conversations, you know, with the other prep schools. And, you know, from there, I think now we've earned our respect to kind of be, you know, be on the national scene.
And speaking of history, I mean, as a coach at IMG, have you studied the history of IMG and realized it started as a tennis academy?
Yeah, Nick Bollettieri Tennis Academy.
There you go.
Yeah, I did. You got to do your reading. They let you know that before you even walk through the door.
You know, started as a tennis academy.
And golf was second, and then it kind of football would have been there. Yeah, football and basketball were the last two sports at it.
That's right. That's right. But now, I guess, on the IMG campus, you've literally got a little bit of everything. And all of those programs are expected to compete at a high level.
They are. They expect national championships. Baseball just won one this year, or last year.
Really?
You know,
I missed that.
Yeah, basketball was first, and then baseball came, and then obviously football is on a national level. They have a lot of professional tennis athletes, like you said, and you know, from there, golf is pretty prominent. So yeah, they definitely expect. They let it be known.
How big is that campus?
It's just say it's two sides and it's getting bigger. Like you had to take a tram to get to the other side of campus.
Oh wow! Really?
Yeah, they expanding it. They just built the football field. They building a new arena down there. The arena it was on pace to be done in 2021. I don't know if they still what's the deal with it now because of the COVID situation. But yeah, they building a new arena on campus now.
Compare it in size geographically to the University of Memphis, for instance.
I say it's probably, yeah, maybe if you've been in the side of, I'm gonna say probably. Let me just look it up. I'll tell you right now. If I'm not mistaken, it's a couple hundred acres.
Really?
Yeah, it's a couple of hundred acres. I'll tell you right now.
Oh man, I didn't know it had gotten that big.
750 acres.
750 acres.
Yeah, and they've taken up 450 acres right now. So they still got, I guess, 300 acres left to build on if they want to.
Wow. That is mind-boggling, Trey. I did not know it was that big.
450 acres in 2013. So, yeah. 600, about 600 acres.
That is bigger than a lot of colleges.
Yeah, it is. It's ridiculous.
Man, well, I'm really happy for you, Trey. I know I've told you that, but it couldn't happen to a better guy, a more deserving guy. And I just really believe this is going to be your springboard to, you know, whatever your final destiny is going to be. I can't wait to see what it turns out.
Appreciate it. Appreciate y'all. Appreciate it, Leroy. Appreciate it, Brian.
No problem. Thank you for joining us.
All right. Thank you.
All right. You guys have a good one.